the viewers of Hospitality Influencers. This is Raj Gopal, CEO from Raj Hospitality Management and Hospitality Influencers HI. Today, I have a person with a different background in the industry, with a chemical engineering background, but doing fabulously superb as far as the hospitality industry is concerned. I have the guest today, Dr. G. Vasudevan, Executive Director of Pandin Hotels, which is Madurai, and Vice President and founder member of Tamil Nadu Travel Mart. They call TTM. So I just want to actually give you a very small brief about him. His biodata will be of 4 to 5 pages, but then I would like to make it very short. I'm so happy to see him because I'm seeing him after so many years. He's always a big mentor for all of us. When I born in 1964, in 1965, he has already finished his graduation. So that kind of super duper senior he is. I just would like to take 1 minute of yours to read out his biodata. Very simple. He was born in Madurai but studied in Chennai. He finished his BSc in Chemical Engineering, University of Madras, 1965. MSc in Chemical Engineering from USA, 1968. PhD in Chemical Engineering from USA, 1971. And of course, the MBA from University of Chicago, 1975. He worked in R&D Union Carbide, Chicago, 1970 to 1980, and R&D in Mobile Chemical for a company, New Jersey, 1980 to 86. He was in many clubs and many the associations, etc. But I just would like to read few. He was in the Toastmaster Club of USA. He was in the JCs in USA. Headed, guided, mentored, and many other major officers in various organizations in the clubs of different clubs, Rotary clubs, etc. He was in advisory committee of Internals Research Review Board Ethical Clearance Committee. A true lover of Madurai, passionate about Madurai. He had conducted many tourism fairs, festivals for Madurai, and highlighted Madurai in the World Tourism Map. He's married to Pungodai, ma'am, and has son and daughter and 3 granddaughter, and all of them living in Chicago, I think USA. Presenting the most dynamic person of the Tamil Nadu hospitality industry, a vibrant Madurai hotelier, respected Dr. Vasudevan, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
So happy to have you with us today, and thank you very much for giving your valuable time. So that's more important to me.
Pleasure is all mine.
Yes, sir. So
I guess I really have to. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, sorry, sir. Please, sir.
No. You ask what you want to tell me, and I'll reply to your questions.
Very simple, sir, because the viewers are basically a lot of youngsters, and this pandemic has created a lot of problems. People have been jobless, and people have doubts that what are they going to choose the hospitality industry in the future or not. So a lot of people are listening to you, and they would definitely take a lot of leads, and youngsters particularly would like to take a lot of leads from you. So I have very simple questions. So can we start with the questions, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
You've been always the chemical engineer, and your background was totally industry in the chemical industry. How come you have landed into the hospitality industry? Is it an accident or is it a passion for you?
Well, it is actually an accident, I would say. Basically, after completing my 16 years of work experience in multinational companies in the US, due to family reasons, I shifted back to Madurai. Right. Though, as you said rightly earlier, I was born in Madurai, and so I guess my parents are from Madurai, and our families are mostly agriculturists. And I got to tell you a little background about how the hotel was established. Back in early 1960s, the late Chief Minister Kamaraj had a great vision that apart from Chennai, where you had Star Hotel, there was none available in the south. And he thought Madurai being a center of down south, he felt it is close enough to Kodaikanal, Rameswaram, and all the way up to Kanyakumari. He had the vision of somehow convincing my father to start a hotel in Madurai.
Okay.
And so in 1968, December 31st, the hotel was opened officially by the ex-minister, tourism minister, Union Tourism Minister Karan Singh.
Oh, okay.
But it was far ahead of the time. Back in 1968 or even in the early 1970s, tourism was not heard of. So we were essentially stuck up with a hotel with nobody to come. And the few foreigners that would come only during the so-called season, between October and March that we all have today. So it took a lot of time and effort, and we really wanted to make it a success. And if I really wanted to tell anybody a good advice, everybody has got a failure. I mean, every industry, everybody who starts something new, they're not going to see success immediately.
Right.
And particularly today, things are changing so fast. The product that you may have today may become obsolete tomorrow. So unless you are in line with what is going on around you, you'll be left behind.
Absolutely.
So anyway, to cut the story short, this is a family hotel with the some support from TVS and Majra Coats, where they also felt that such a hotel in Madurai would be beneficial to the tourists. Having said that, when I came back to Madurai, I didn't really have any idea of what I was going to do. It was kind of a last-minute decision to come back to Madurai in 1986 December. Anyway, in 87, I started a restaurant with the help of Continental. Basically, in the town, we decided to provide multi-cuisine food at a much cheaper price than what you would have to pay in a star hotels.
Okay.
And so that went on for a while. And then in 1976 to 1986, the hotel was tied up with Taj. We were part of Taj, where we had a special marketing arrangements with Taj, unlike what kind of arrangement they have today. And so in 86, we decided to come out and do the business on our own. But then again, it became a bit difficult to promote with all the competition and everything else that was going on. It required somebody like multinational companies or some such people to be part of. And so we tied up with ITC Hotel.
Okay.
Today, since about 2003, we have been part of Fortune Park Hotels, which is a subsidiary of ITC Group of Hotels.
Right.
And it has been going on. They're doing most of our marketing and also the training of our employees and making sure that we're able to maintain the so-called standards of what would be a larger chain. And that is helping us a lot in being able to make a good image outside. And in TripAdvisor, year after year, we have been getting a lot of appreciation from them for the kind of work we're doing. One of the success, I would say, of our hotel is we are very, very sensitive to customers.
Absolutely.
Customers are like God for us, And periodically, we do have problems. I mean, there's no hotel that doesn't have problem with a customer because expectation from the customers are always varied. And unless you're able to provide this ultimate satisfaction for the customer, they're going to write in the TripAdvisor or will tell you about the problems. And we always respond to that. We talk to the customer, find out what exactly went wrong, if there was wrong, and if it is on our part, we rectify it or try to give him explanation why such an incident happened. Anyway, that kind of a feedback and responding to the customer's need, I think it helps having customers who are loyal to us.
Hmm.
People otherwise would be moving to some other hotel with a lot of other similar hotels in the area today. So they have multiple choice. So we have to make sure that we retain the customers, which is very, very important. Getting a new customer will be very difficult, but retaining the customer is much more important so that the major part of your business is taken care. And then, of course, you always have to keep on looking for new customers.
True.
This is the basic philosophy that we have had that probably is the success of Pandian. And we just completed 51 years of existence,
Oh, wow.
incidentally. And
Because I've been,
one of the things,
yeah, I've been many
Yeah.
times to Pandian Hotel, but even though there is a Taj or the Hilton, whoever has come in, I feel that the kind of the breakfast, especially your breakfast, is really tasty. The sambar. You talk about the chutneys, and of course, as you rightly said, because they don't know who I am, but I just been walked in many times as a guest also for breakfast only. But then the kind of I feel that it is not a hotel. Definitely the standards, everything has been maintained, but this is more of a like home to me. And I know this hotel for the last 20-25 years, and it is Madurai means Pandian. Rest of everything comes and goes, and but then Pandian we cannot forget it all. So that kind of image definitely we understand that. Yeah, because the effort has been put in. A lot of, I think your father and after that you have come in and put a lot of personal in detail. Of course you have Fortune Hotels there, Taj and all has been there, but then I think a lot of personal touches were being given, because I used to when I was the general manager of Sangam Trichy in 1994 and all. So I used to I think even Mr. Vasudevan, who was the executive director then at Sangam Trichy, so he used to go and I think learned a lot. Uh, Even setting up Sangam Trichy, they have learned a lot from Pandian Hotels. That's what I believe. Yes, sir.
that is absolutely true. In fact, when Sangam Hotel was built back in the 70s
Yeah.
in Trichy, I think my brother, who was the general manager here at Pandian,
Yeah.
used to go there and really set up the construction, oversee the construction, hiring of the people, training of the people, and we have a very special relationship from then on, even today.
Yes.
So true. And anyway, that's the major part of it. Now, probably you may ask why I, with the background of being an engineer, I could have probably got some job in a chemical industry and probably could have pursued that. But there's a lot of challenge in this. And basically, I think with the MBA background and the kind of family background and the upbringing that I have been exposed to, I felt that I had to be part of this as long as I can. And so that is a part of the reason why I'm here. I also have to tell you how I became so passionate about Madurai. Though I was born in Madurai, I was actually raised in Chennai completely. All my life, except for my very, very young age, I was there. Except for vacations, when I used to come to Madurai, then we would go to Kodaikanal, and so what little I knew about Madurai then was next to nothing, to be very honest with you. But after I came back, I had the great fortune of being influenced by the Madurai's history.
Oh.
To be very honest with you, when I used to go to school, history was one of the boring subject you can ever think of. It's very dry, and all you think about, or they talk to you was years of so and so ruled, and what was the area that they had conquered, and things of that nature. But Madurai, with its 2,000-year old history, which is the second, one of the two living cities of, this is 2,000 years old. The other one is Varanasi. So there are a lot of history here, which even Madurai people do not know today.
Absolutely.
And I had the fortune of getting to be a friend of a photographer who took me, Bharati, who took me to a lot of the Jain caves that are around Madurai, which are not known to many people. Back in 3rd century BC, Jains had migrated from the north and had settled down in Madurai and in the region. and mostly they were living in the caves outside the city limit. And interestingly enough, every one of them have in the hill, it's a small hillocks, they're all, and they have water source in the hillock, and it's not like a big cave, and it's a small place where they can probably creep in, and probably they'll have a few beds where they can lie down, and they were, in fact, Madurai Tamil literatures, many Tamil literatures written by Jains.
Ooh.
A lot of the medicines were actually, I mean, those were the main profession. They were promoting Jainism and they were providing medicine for the locals. These were the things. So I personally, along with Bharati, had explored every one of them around Madurai. I got interested. Then I also got involved, or got to know a couple of wonderful people like Dr. Vedachalam, who was a retired archaeologist, and a couple of others, Dr. Venkatraman, who is an historian. And if you probably sit with him, he can make history so interesting. Hours will go by and you won't even know that hours have gone by. It can make it so beautifully interesting. So he was a great mentor. And he used to explain to us about the history of Jain influence and so on and so forth. So back in 2000, some of us, there was two people that I have had to give a lot of, three people that I have to give a lot of credit. One was Ravi Kandagi, who was the general manager of Taj at the time back in 2000. Yeah. And then we had Devendra Ratma. He was actually a F&B manager from Rajasthan.
Okay.
He said in Rajasthan they have heritage walk. Why can't we find whether we can promote a heritage walk in Madurai? So one fine early morning, Ravi, myself, and Liju George, who happened to be the chairman of CIF Madurai chapter, all of us took a walk from the palace to the temple, which is about less than 1 kilometer.
Okay.
Believe it or not, we were able to identify more than a dozen old heritage spots.
Wow.
So to promote that heritage walk, we had organized along with CII and Travel Club, which is also a 20-year-old club that has been, I'm a past president of the Travel Club, and have been promoting tourism into Madurai. And we took up local people, and with the help of the archaeologists, explained every bit of the history of the 12 identified places. Many people know about, misinformation about some of these places, like we have a Patutun, or 10 pillars, which actually was the entrance to the old destroyed entrance to the living quarters of the Nayaks.
Okay.
So we don't have that got destroyed, but only the pillars are there. Today, if you ask anybody, they will say that this part of elephant used to be tied to those pillars, which was not true. And then you have Velakutun. There's light over there, which is in memory of Blackburn. Many people don't even know the history behind it. So on and so forth. Then I can go on and on and on about it. So because of our initiative later on, there have been many people who have taken up as part of their heritage work professionally. There's a story trail which professionally takes you from the temple to a palace early in the morning for a walk, and they give you a local breakfast, and foreigners generally go for those heritage work. The other thing that most interesting, which many people do not know, Gandhi visited Madurai 5 times.
Oh.
And out of that, 2 are the most important history. One is in Westmassey Street. He was staying in a house. He saw the people, walking around almost half naked with no clothes to wear. He was so touched by that. In 1920, he decided he would throw away his regular clothes and start wearing the loincloth, which is historically, as you know,
happened there.
Very important. That happened in Madurai. That building is still there. Unfortunately, there is a Khadi store and in the ground floor, and there's a little bit of thing about Gandhi in the first floor. So whenever it is closed, you can go up. I wish they would convert that into a heritage building before it gets destroyed, because that's a very old building. Gandhi Museum, which was actually the summer palace of the Queen, a Nayak descendant, became the Gandhi Museum only because of that particular reason of Gandhi's visit to Madurai. The other reason is Meenakshi Amman temple, they wouldn't allow the Harijans to go in. In 1946, I believe, he walked into the temple with Harijans. So couple of major things that happened in Madurai because of Gandhi, and that's the reason why Gandhi Museum had been established. And it's a beautiful place. A lot of artifacts and pictures and whatnot are there that people can see. So the other thing that actually is very beautiful about Madurai is Madurai has got its own local food.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, when Dr. Abdul Kalam visited Madurai, and he was staying next to our hotel in Circuit House, and we were doing the catering. And believe me, late in the evening after we had taken the food over there, he said, no, I want to taste the local kuttu paratha. Madurai is famous for kuttu paratha.
Yeah.
And so we had to go and make kuttu paratha and give it to him.
Wow.
So similar to that, we have a Jigardanda, which is also very unique to Madurai, which is ice cream with all kinds of other things, seaweed, and so on and so forth. So there's an youngster who actually takes people on a food trail, walking through the various local restaurants which are hygienic, but you'll be able to taste from the soup to dessert at different places and whatnot.
Wow.
So these are the kinds of things that have been happening in Madurai, which would promote tourism to not only our own people but also foreigners. I can go on. If you have any other question, you can talk to me.
What are the biggest
challenges?
challenges?
Now you know why I'm passionate about Madurai.
Absolutely, I can understand, because the way you started itself, I could understand that there is something in you, because we have some other important questions. What are the biggest challenges as a hotelier you face in Tamil Nadu, in the hotel industry in Tamil Nadu?
There are a couple of things that I like to say. One of the problems that all of the industries, the hotel industries have, is not restricted to Tamil Nadu alone. One, lack of good candidates or employees. The demand is very high, supply is very low. And there are not good enough colleges, except for, I would say, half a dozen of them, like Indian Institute of Hotel Management in Adayar and Kapla and Trichy and whatnot. The people are not coming to, enough propaganda has not been done about this particular profession. And Travel Club has taken this as one of the things that we want to do by going to various colleges and talking about how this profession can really be very rewarding and so on and so forth. But one of the problems, we don't get enough good qualified people. Whoever is coming do not have any vision of what they want to be. And most of the youngsters today, I find that I talk to, they don't know what they want to be after 5 years or 10 years. I don't know whether if you ever had any chance to talk to Dr. Abdul Kalam or be close to him. I'm a fan of him. He actually asks every individual that he meets, whether young or old, first question he always asks is, what do you want to be? 5 years from now, 10 years from now. His whole latter part of his life, he has been spending going from colleges and students, meeting thousands and thousands of people, motivating them to think about what they want to be, so on. And that is something that is lacking in today's youngsters. Today, they come, there's no commitment to what they're doing, and they think that when they come here, they'll be wearing only jacket and coats and tie and, don't soil their hands. I tell you, I'm not trying to boast about myself. Every individual who's in this industry, hospitality industry, should be willing to roll up their sleeves and do any work that is called for. I had a restaurant in Kutralam, and when there is a huge crowd, I will pick up the soil plates. I'll go and wash the plates and whatnot, and I'll be serving them also, because that is the need of the hour. I can't really say I'm the boss and I can't be yelling and screaming at the people to do the job. See, what it does is it gives them kind of sense of belonging, and they also work a little harder to take care of the problem at that time. This is something that the youngsters do not believe in. They think that they have to come wear all these fancy clothes and look nicely and whatnot. This is another problem that I feel that they have to mindset has to change.
I do
The
agree.
third thing that I feel which is lacking very badly is the communication. Today, all said and done, we have to be able to speak in English. Now, we cannot communicate with everybody in Tamil.
Correct.
Unfortunately, because of the government emphasis on Tamil medium and Tamil and so on and so forth, most of them do not really have a good communication skill, let alone written skills. We really need to have a good written skill also in when you are communicating, because that is very essential. This have to be really taught in the college as definitely has to be taught. If you don't do that, when they come out, the competition that you have to face with the people who are coming from the metropolis, you'll have a less of a chance for you from smaller towns or tier 2 or tier 3 cities. So this is something that has to be emphasized. The last thing that I like to tell you about is, till about a couple of years ago, till the TTM, the Tamil Nadu Travel Mart was formed, my Tamil Nadu government tourism department did not really promote tourism per se. They participated in many of the road shows and marts and so on and so forth, both local and international. But there was no one really trying to explain what kind of things are available that they can come and see and so on and so forth. That has changed lately, I think, because TTM was able to guide them, tell them how to present themselves in terms of how to promote tourism. Because the competition has become extremely stiff. Every state today is competing for the same bunch of people. So if you're going to succeed for people to come to Tamil Nadu, you better do a better job than what they've been doing. This change in attitude is good, thanks to TTM. But yeah, hopefully it will continue in the future also.
Yeah, but I think because leaders like you are there and also youngsters coming in, the combination of both, I'm sure, because they are owners, you are enterprising managers, if understand each other and do it, and maybe definitely good government support is there. Tamil Nadu is definitely very, very strong. Because I've been in Tamil Nadu, staying in Tamil Nadu for a year. The kind of heritage sites, what you have, the temples, what you have, of course, the hillocks, everything. You have the beaches everywhere. I think it is definitely a very potential state and more flexible than Kerala or Karnataka, more flexible. I think you can do really wonders as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. So I go to the
I really have one more comment that I want to make with regards to promotion of tourism. Most of the tourism today is happening where the people are brought into Kerala and Cochin. From Cochin, they come to Thekadi, Madurai, Trichy, Tanjore, and all the way to Pondicherry and then Chennai, and after they go in 15 days. I feel very strongly that down south has been untouched. There's so much to showcase in down south. We really have not done a good job of having our own circuit for down south. My dream really is hopefully in the next couple of years, we will generate some good itinerary locally in the down south, so that rather than taking this usual route, they should be able to promote both, particularly now with the COVID-19, after COVID-19, we're all going to be looking for domestic tourism. And again, we're all going to be competing with all other states because everyone has to look for groups. if that is the case, I think
But
we have to
the
showcase.
experiences, because the guest also would like to have experiences now rather than talking about the same destinations.
And that's what I'm saying, Madurai has got plenty to showcase in terms of experience. If you go down south, in Kodaikanal now, there are resorts where you can do a lot of things, hiking and so on and so forth. Or if you go to Tirunelveli, there are bird sanctuaries that you can go to. There are, Mudumalai and tiger preserves in Tirunelveli that you can go to. There are a lot of, that's what I'm saying. There are places that can be promoted very nicely, whether it is heritage or whether it is leisure or pilgrimage, come what may, but we should be able to do it nicely. Okay.
What do you do on your free time? So, like apart from your chemical engineering, hospitality industry, what is that? You like music? You talked about history and all that was very fascinating for me. But anything else? You like cooking, your music, you play. What is that which makes you so much free? I would say.
When I go to US to visit my children, I do the cooking. See, they have all become vegetarian. And I have a grandson he just turned 7 years a couple of days ago. He loves non-vegetarian food. And my daughter will not cook non-vegetarian food at home. Okay. So I have to do all the non-vegetarian cooking for him. So I also help her with the cooking and baking. Baking is another passion that I have, that I used to do, trying different things and so on and so forth. I do listen to a lot of classical music. I was exposed to Western classical music and a lot of plays and operas when I was in the US, thanks to a friend who used to be a fellow student in Baltimore when I was doing my master's. And he's an Italian descendant. So he exposed to a lot of these things. So I do enjoy any good music. And I did have classical music training when I was little. I cannot sing today because I forgot all about it, but I enjoy listening to good classical music. In fact, I'd like to tell you, for the last 45 years or so, Pandian Hotel has been sponsoring a local program, which is chamber music.
Oh, wow.
Chamber music is where only about 30, 40 people will be coming and sitting there. Chamber music means you shouldn't really have a mic and all that, but we do have it. That we have been sponsoring for the last umpteen number of years. And there is, and they have a series of program, 7-day program in August. And also there's a Lakshmi Sundaram Hall, which accommodates about 700 people. And there in January, like in Chennai, they have a program for 10 days. And there's another one. So yeah, I do enjoy all the play and whatnot.
A lot of folk dances also around, a lot of like Karagatam and Mailatam.
Yeah.
So beautiful experience.
See, one other thing that really what I have been pushing for, which I hope I will succeed before I retire, and that is, for Madurai to be able to showcase really well, we do have a college, for example, music college, government arts music college, where they train people in various kinds of instruments, including folk arts. And, but we don't give them enough opportunity. And I would like to have near the temple, near Meenakshi temple, where everybody goes in the evening, every day like they do it in Kerala, some classical program or folk music or folk dances for 1 hour, so people can sit and watch and enjoy our culture. You're talking about experience. That's an experience.
You had this light and sound shows in the palace and all. It used to be earlier light and sound shows and all that.
And they do have it now, but I'm not over enthused about that. Quality of it, it's not that great. I would rather have live program than that one. Really.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah. And because I think that's a very great idea, because people know that every day at this particular time something is happening there. All the guests who are in Madurai can always come and assemble there, and they get the street food and enjoy the music. I think that's a very great idea. I'm sure you'll be able to do that because you've been in the industry for long years, and with Sira, and also with the this TMA now, I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So, what's your most favorable incident? Maybe definitely, because for me, I have many incidents, but any incident which is you still remember, like you talked about this Gandhiji and all. But this is, I'm talking about the industry, hospitality industry. Something you felt, oh wow, you served to someone like Abdul Kalam and all that you say. Something which happened, which was totally a memorable one.
Well, we have been getting a lot of VIPs and VVIPs and whatnot. Routinely they come and go, so that's not such a big deal. Like for example, we used to have late Mr. Karnanidhi used to stay in the hotel only. He had his own rooms at where he stayed, his favorite rooms. MGR used to stay in one of the suites, where he always stayed, and his wife stayed later on. Because now that has been changed to different style, but the old style that they really enjoyed. And even Dr. Jayalalitha, for example, had her own favorite room where she would stay. Of course, I wasn't here when Dr. MGR was here, but when Dr. Karnanidhi was here, I was here. But when Dr. Jayalalitha was here, unlike other people, nobody would dare come inside the building. Everyone will have to stay. In fact, Mr. OPS, Pannirselvam was made chief minister for a short period of time when she was disqualified and she was standing for election again. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, his car was actually stopped outside the campus and he had to walk all the way. And in the lobby, he was standing along with the rest of the people till she decided to call him up and talk to him, which is very kind of unusual, the kind of power that she had. It's just the opposite with Dr. Karnanidhi. In fact, twice they broke the front glass window because of the people pushing it and breaking it. In fact, he used to kind of jovially say that if you guys keep doing it next time, Pandian Hotel people won't even allow me to come and stay here. Those are. But the best thing really is my, I won't say association, but the few minutes that I had spent with Dr. Abdul Kalam is really something that I'll never forget. As I said, he was such an idol that I follow. And just to, this is off the record. My granddaughter built a rocket. She's about 11 years old. And last Saturday, she was in a scout camp near Wisconsin, and she shot the rocket. It went up to 1,000 feet up and fell down, I believe.
Oh.
So, and I told her that another Abdul Kalam in the making, and I told her she should know what kind of fuel was given to her, and this is she was going to study.
Absolutely.
Just after record.
No, but that's,
so I really want to inspire people. People should really have dreams, and that's why I keep reading a lot of Abdul Kalam's books, which I keep reading it, and I keep getting inspired by his way he went about it. So simple a man, I'll never forget. Anyway.
How did COVID affect the industry in Tamil Nadu? I'm sure all over the world it has been affected very badly. So how are you managing your staff during this period? And what kind of new normals have been introduced at the hotel?
Okay. Back in March, when there was a total lockdown, we explained to the people, we didn't realize that this lockdown was going to be extended for this long. So we told them that they have to stay home. The hotel will be completely closed, and we only had a few people to do the maintenance work, nothing else. And we paid them fully for April. Okay. April and March, we paid them fully. For May and June, we had to cut back on their salary a little bit because with zero income.
Okay.
And I didn't have a lot of cash stashed away, so I really have to make them understand that we really still want you to be, at least have some minimum amount so that you don't go hungry.
Yeah.
And so that we did. And in some other people, And in July, for example, a lot of them, and in September, October, there will be paid bonus.
Okay.
So we paid them the bonus in July.
Okay.
You know, instead of paying later on, we paid them so that they'll get the full benefit, hoping that this lockdown will be over. Didn't happen again. So for July, and this is for June where we paid the one. For July, I don't know. We'll have to come up with some kind of deal whereby we'll be able to pay most of the salaries and bonus and things like that. One other thing that we have done is we did reduce the workforce totally. To an extent, not totally, but I'm saying about 1/3 we had to reduce, so that we'll be able to manage at least with the people that we have. Still, I'm not really having them come over to work because there's no work.
Yeah.
It's all closed down. But 2 weeks ago, the government hospital approached us,
Okay.
and they wanted us to accommodate the
quarantine.
duty doctors.
Duty doctor.
And so now for the last 2.5 weeks, we have been accommodating duty doctors. The food is being provided by the government, so we are only providing the rooms. And they're paying very little money. Half of what normally will be, not even half, much less than what normally will be charging. But at least we keep the equipment running.
Absolutely.
We have about very minimum staff to make sure that maintenance work and any problem that we may have to be able to address maintenance workers and so on and so forth. So we really have to closely watch how we are spending every penny or every pie.
Absolutely.
That is what we have to watch out, because we still do not know whether they are going to allow us to open in August, or people are saying it may even go extend beyond August to September. Even if they say, okay, tomorrow, till the cross border is from across the state is open and the COVID is actually comes under control, people will still hesitate to travel.
Correct.
And so it is not, and I don't know, it's going to be several months, and all we need to do really is we have to learn how to survive during this period by tightening our belt. Every pie that we spend, we have to really look at it carefully, make sure that it is essential. That's the only way we can do it. And many of the owners are not getting paid all these months.
Absolutely.
Because we have to set an example. We can't really be taking full amount and expect the workers to give up their salary. So we have completely given up our salary, and they understand that we are really trying to help them during this bad period. I think we will survive. Once we survive, I think we'll be able to come back to normalcy probably sometime in the latter part of first quarter.
By Diwali time, I think we should be all back to normal. By Diwali time, things should be definitely back. September, yes. August end, yes. It should be clear.
I'm not even sure it will be August, September. It may be even much longer. No, seriously, because every state that has opened up, like for example, Andhra or Karnataka, things are going up again.
Yeah.
It's not under control. So people are not going to be traveling, taking the risk of coming all the way from Karnataka to Tamil Nadu or Andhra to Tamil Nadu. And Tamil Nadu people may not even want them to come here because they're afraid they may bring more corona here. So it's overall in India, I think we have to bring the virus level to a reasonable level, and hopefully we will have some kind of vaccine that will probably keep things under control, which is what we are hoping for.
So the few words for aspirants, new entrants for the hospitality industry, maybe 2 or 3 points you want to say.
I really think that hospitality industry is a fantastic industry if you are extroverted. If you are introverted, this is not the industry to be in. Because this is a service industry, and you're going to be moving with people, interacting with people, and if you're going to be shy, sorry, this is not the place to be in. In fact, even people in the kitchen are made to come to the restaurant, interact with the people, with the customers, find out how they're enjoying the food that they have prepared, and so on and so forth. So you really have to be an extroverted. That's the first quality you have to be. Communication skill, if you're able to learn Hindi, English, minimum. And if you're able to learn some foreign languages, that'll be fantastic, like French or Spanish or German, any one of those three languages, it'll be phenomenal. Potential is fantastic because this is, see, today we have become global. We are no longer localized. I cannot say, we are Tamil Nadu or we are Madurai or we are India. Anything happens anywhere in the world, if somebody sneezes over there, it affects us. What is happening today is exactly that.
Good.
And therefore, the opportunities are also equally great everywhere. So it's not like you're going to be confined to opportunity within India or within Tamil Nadu or within one city. It all is up to you to be able to grow, learn, update your knowledge continuously. See, today things are happening so fast every day. Unless you're able to keep up with the technology and the development of the industry, you'll be left behind and you'll not be able to sell yourself. So you have to be aggressive. I mean, this is true of any field. I'm not talking about the service industry alone, but I'm talking about any industry because things are happening too fast and we have to be learning. That means reading books, talking to people, and and participating in the seminars and webinars or whatever, constantly upgrading your knowledge. And you should really have the questioning mind. Why? That has to be there. That has to be there. And the last but not the least, you have to set a goal for yourself. What do you want to be 5 years from now and 10 years from now? Don't hop from one place to another place just because somebody is offering you 10 rupees more, 100 rupees more. Correct. Money can come, money can go, but opportunities do not come all the time. So if you're going to move to another place, make sure it is going to help you grow in your goal. That would be my personal advice to anybody. And the commitment, you should really be committed to what you're doing. Ownership, whenever, wherever you're working, you should really have the ownership to that place as long as you're there. If you don't have that ownership, if you feel that you just want to come in and punch a clock from 8 o'clock to whatever time, you'll not go anywhere. That would be my humble suggestion.
I think like most of the questions you have already covered with a lot of explanations done, because I want to ask you for the youngsters, but I think you have covered almost everything. And it was, for me, especially because I know you very well, it's like, it's a lot of respect for you. So during this conversation, maybe I have also taken a lot of notes that, certain things can be changed from my side too. So thank you very much, sir. It was really interesting talking to you. You want to say something, sir?
I just want to say one other thing. Today, people are so much after money.
Correct.
That the society has to be good for us to be good. This is something that we forget. And I'm involved in a lot of this. For example, I'm the chairman of Cheshire Home, which takes care of about 30 to 40 physically disabled people, totally. These are people abandoned by the family, and we take care of the food and everything else. I'm also involved with the MS Chelamuthu Trust, which are in a much bigger way are involved in taking care of physically, mentally disabled children as well as elders. All I am saying is, what little we can, we should be involved in the social welfare of the people. I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money, but we cannot live in a society where the society is not being so hot, and you may have all the wealth and whatnot. I don't think you'll be able to enjoy it. So
I believe
part of your time,
please, sir, please.
You should be able to spend a little bit to the society. This is my humble suggestion also.
No, I think
for everybody.
Very true, sir. Because giving back to the society is very, very important. And I really appreciate because I've gone through your biodata with the kind of CSR activities you're doing, and on your personal level, may not be attached to the hotel, but I think lots of personal things what you're doing. This is what and I always felt that because when I'm going through that, it was not done because you are expecting something to come back to you. It was all done because you want to do it and you have been doing it. And thank you, sir. Thank you. It was lots of inspiration to all of us, and I'm sure all the viewers would have got a lot of inspiration. And it is wonderful talking to you, sir. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My
I have a
pranam.
passion for what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Take care, sir. Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye. Bye.